Hello and welcome. Today, I'm going to show you a few different ways you can join two pieces of clay together. So first off, we're starting with the vase that I made. It's pretty big, pretty round. I'm going to have the star stamped at the bottom because that's my logo. So now I'm just wedging clay, and I like to wedge clay a little bit before, I start actually working on stuff. As you can see, right now I'm making kind of like a circular motion with my hands so that I can make some eyeballs. So I'm making two of them for this one. So we just spin them. I'm measuring them to make sure that, they're a good, decent size. So I decided they're a little bit small, so I'm gonna make them a little bit bigger and smooth them out. So we just spin them. This involves, just a lot of smoothing out. And I like to work with softer clay because with softer clay, it's easier to smooth things out and it doesn't look crackly or grainy. So then now I'm working on the nose, and I feel like in all of my pieces, the nose is my favorite part to design because noses come in all different shapes and sizes. And they can be crooked, or they can, have that kind of arc, or they might dip down more. You might have like a nose bump, and some people's noses stick up, some people's noses stick down. It all depends, and they're just kind of fun and kind of interesting. So now I'm gonna go into carving the nose out. I'm carving the nose out so that it dries faster, because when you dry clay, you only want to dry, I think, about ½ an inch. Otherwise, it has a chance of not drying thoroughly, and then it might explode in the kiln. And it also makes the product a lot lighter if there's not the extra clay where there doesn't need to be. And now I'm measuring the depth of it. So I just put my finger and put my thumb with it just to, check it out. And now we have the eyeballs. So usually when I make the eyes, I have like a little circle, make the eye out of it, and then I'll cut off part of it, again, to make the final product lighter than it would be, and not as clunky, I guess, so that it looks more like a face. And so now I'm mapping out the little details of the face, of where they're supposed to go. For the rest of the products, I don't really do that, but for this one, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna map it out. And now I'm scoring the clay. There's different ways to join the clay. Both of these pieces, they're pretty soft. You can use a method where you score everything, and then you wet everything with water. So there's no need to use slip here because the clay itself is pretty soft, so it will stick to itself easier than if it was leather hard or, more dry, or harder to bend. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just, wetting down all the pieces. And now I get to join it to the jar. Yay! Super fun. So I'm just joining all the face pieces together. Not really sure how to fill this silence and such, but I'm just gonna make it not silent, I guess. So I'm working on smoothing it out. Whenever I smooth everything out, I like to press down pretty hard to make sure that everything is joined properly. I was taught to tug a little bit, because if you tug on it and it doesn't come apart, then it won't come apart like later. It's more solid. And now I'm going in with like a wooden thing that I have. Tool for ceramics. I don't remember the name of it, but I'm just using it to, smooth everything out and make everything a little bit more joined. I like to, on pieces like this, I like to, smudge down some of the clay, and I feel like in a way that makes somewhat of a harder slip. So not like a slip consistency, but I feel like it joins it better. And now, you smooth everything out to make sure there's no lumps anywhere. I like to do that with some water, put it on my finger, and I did end up making that bowl that's in this video that I'm using for water. It was one of the first bowls that I ever made. It's pretty small, and it actually came in a set, but I accidentally broke the other two pieces. Bigger plate, smaller plate, and then I had a bigger bowl, and that one also broke, so unfortunately, but it's okay. I mean, it's one of the first pieces I ever made. I've been taking ceramics for a few years now. I kind of came up with the idea of putting faces on my pots just one day it popped into my head and I was like, it'd be really funny to just put faces on stuff, just not take it too seriously. Pottery is something that it's supposed to be fun and you express yourself with it. So I was making that vase for my mom, and I'll probably, update a little bit more later of how everything turns out and such. And then now I have like a cup that I'm kind of making, but unfortunately with my stamp, it doesn't fit on the bottom ring of it because the ring is too small. I do like to double foot pots that I make. So I decided to go in with the stamp on the inside of it. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. So I'm making a mug. Right now I'm making the handle for it. I think one major peeve of mine is making handles for mugs. I love mugs. I love making mugs, or like I like mugs after they turn out, but I just I hate it so much. I hate putting the handle on it. It looks cool afterwards, but I just don't like it at all. Yeah, now I'm scoring the mug piece, and usually people will score it, put a lump of clay, and then they'll pull their mug handles. But maybe I haven't practiced enough, but it just ends up lumpy and weird. So instead I like to try to make them separately and then attach them separately. So that's what I'm doing. And I did that with some water. I just dipped the handle in water and joined it to the mug. So I'm just using that little method. And then I'm, smoothing everything out, making everything nice and even, making sure it looks nice. Just gotta smooth it all out. I don't know what else to say now. And so, I'm smoothing out the mug like this. It's all good. It has a handle now. So now it's actually a mug. And then now I'm gonna go in with I think I'm gonna make an eyeball. No, not an eyeball. So now I'm gonna make a nose for this mug. Now, when I make noses, I do like to make them crooked most of the time, because I just find them so funny when they're crooked, because I have a crooked nose, and I don't know, I want to show younger me some love, so I kind of am just putting that in my art. I like to make faces that look like faces, but also have the humanity of faces. Flaws or perceived flaws that I had or have of myself. The imperfections are things that people are told to change about themselves. Yeah, and I'm using a second method called score and slip. Now, when you score and slip, you scrape with a needle tool or something to make that texture on both pieces that you're joining. Then what you want to do is have a little bit of clay, and you want to make it very, very soft, almost like paint. A pink texture. So what I did was I just took a little piece of clay, I mixed it around in my hand so that I could make that kind of slip consistency, and now I'm joining the nose to the mug with that slip. Yeah, so there's different methods. The reason I use this method is usually used if one of the pieces is leather hard, which is what the mug is. The mug is pretty leather hard, so I wanted to score and slip it to make it more joined. If the mug itself isn't as soft, the pieces that I stick to it might not stick as well, or at all, honestly. Sometimes they knock off. So there always has to be eyes and a nose, and I'm not sure why I don't do mouths. I think I like creatures that don't talk a lot, because I don't really like to talk a lot. I'm not used to talking out loud. More used to talking in my brains. So I'm just gonna smooth out the mug and such. Yeah, so I guess that mug is finished and all. So now we're gonna work on my favorite piece. I made one before and I didn't account for clay shrinkage. It ended up a lot smaller than I thought it would be. So this time I decided to make a paint cup, which is what, I'm making. I decided to make a paint cup, but almost 2 times the size that I want it to turn out to be. It doesn't shrink 50%, like clay doesn't shrink 50%. I think porcelain shrinks quite a bit, like 30%. But in the kiln, the clay particles fuse together, and when they fuse, they become denser and smaller, so more compact. And so now I'm just wedging some clay. I had a little ball of clay, and during this process, I didn't wrap the clay, which I should have, because then it keeps it soft. So instead I had to grab a piece of clay, put it in some water, and wedge it a bit so that it's softer. And I'm making the nose again. Usually I do end up making the noses first because, again, I do love to make the noses. And I can just have fun with like the shapes and sizes of them, and I don't know, they're cool. And it's cool because it's like you inherit, you know, your noses. I feel like I inherited my grandfather's big nose, janky nose, you know. So now I am scoring all of the pieces that I'm gonna join. So I just dipped it in water and fused it to the cup itself. And now I'm gonna, you know, go in with that tool, smooth everything out, make it all look nice, cohesive, neat and cohesive, smooth everything out, gotta make it smooth. I like to use a paintbrush to do all this too, because as smooth as you can get with like your fingers, sometimes you can't get in like the smaller crevices to smooth stuff out. And again, I'm using the silly little twisting motion to make the eyeballs. I have a thing with eyes. I think eyes are the window to the soul. As they say, you know, you can tell a lot about people from their eyes. And I find them just so mesmerizing. And they're also kind of funny. Just, I like creatures that, I like to make my little creatures with just the eyeballs and the noses, little basic human features. I've hit kind of like a burnout thing lately. I'm not totally sure what to make. Instead of, you know, giving up and being like, I'm not going to make anything ever again, blah, blah, blah. Instead, I'm just kind of letting myself experiment with making things, even if it turns out bad. I've been painting a little bit more, and that's quite recently, like ever since maybe 2 days ago. I've made probably 5 or so paintings, just because I felt like it. And they're not necessarily good, but they're not, I think they express the emotion I was trying to convey. Yeah. So then I put stars in the eyes, and this piece kind of reminds me of Coraline a little bit for some reason, but like with the buttons and such, but they're not supposed to be buttons, they're just eyes with stars. He's just a starry-eyed guy. And then I decided to reuse some of the clay that I had used before. They're leather hard now, so they're not super solid, but they're not super soft either. So it's easier to form the ears that I'm gonna make. And then I'm gonna score, and I think I just use water for this. No slip or nothing, but I use water, like to join it, and I'm using the tugging method again, where, you know, you pull on it to make sure it's joined, and it's joined quite well. So now I smooth it out with a paintbrush. I do recommend that everyone take at least one pottery class in their lifetime. If you're someone who's artistically inclined, or even if you're not, even if you're just hands-on, it's still a good class to take because it helps you kind of connect with yourself more, because you have to connect with the way the clay moves as well as your hands to manipulate the clay into the piece that you want to make. So now we have the outro. And yay! Behold. Yay! Here's the little pieces. Wahaha. Yay! Yay! All done. Woohoo! Woo! Amazing. Woohoo! Fantastic. So cool. Yay! Have a good day. Yay! Amazing. Fantastic. So cool.